Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Boston Town Area Committee. My name is Councillor Barry Pierpoint and I'm the chairman of the committee. And to my right is my vice chairman, is Councillor Patsy Marston. Let's just go through some housekeeping rules. The restroom facilities are available for ladies on the first floor and halfway down the main stairwell for the gentlemen. In the event of a fire alarm sounding, officers will escort everyone out of the building to the nearest fire safety point in the car park. Will all persons addressing this meeting please do so through the microphone system. At all times, this meeting is being recorded. Please be advised that abuse or intimidation of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who is deemed to breach this requirement will be warned and asked to refrain. If the behaviour persists, they will be asked to leave the meeting. We'll now move on to the part one of this evening's meeting and we'll firstly address the preliminary items. First of all, we're going to receive apologies.
Thank you, Chairman. We have apologies from Councillors Ariambath, Austin A and Councillor Ghosh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. Can I sign the minutes of the meeting? Are we all in favour? You'll let me sign the minutes of the last meeting? Yes? Yeah. Agreed? Thank you very much. Right. Update on actions from the minutes of the last meeting. I'll ask Mr. Perry if you've got any updates, please.
There are no updates, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Phil. To receive any declarations of interest from members. Anybody got any declaration of interest? No? Thank you very much. We go on to public questions. Do we have any public questions?
No questions, Chairman.
Thank you. Is anyone attending in the public gallery? Oh, no, we've just gone through that bit. Sorry, apologies. Right, that concludes the preliminary...
Questions now, this one.
Oh, sorry. Does anyone attending in the public gallery wish to address the meeting, please? Sir.
Good evening. My name's Jonathan Wolfe. I think I'm from the Staniland district, which is yours. Hello. A very, very quick thing is about fly tipping, which I know is a very big point for Boston. First of all, I'd like to thank the Boston Council for their fly tipping squad that goes around the council, picking up all the mess which is around there. They do a very, very good job, and I do thank you all for sending them around. I want to know what the penalties are for the people who are caught fly tipping, because it is a big thing on my checklist. I do keep an eye out for fly tippers around because I live right next door to one of the prime areas, right on the corner of Granville Street and Carlton Road. I have reported 2 or 3 people who have done the fly tipping, and I don't know if anything has happened to them. I know they've been issued with fines, but I don't think they've ever been collected. Could I suggest that possibly instead of fines, these people are encouraged to join the fly tipping team and they go along and pick up some of the rubbish that they are dumped, and so they are forced to do it. Yeah, so the fines don't work. Make them go along, even if they have to take time off work, take them along and make them clear out the mess that they are doing. I actually have to chase some of the people around the block where they're wheeling there as the trolleys full of rubbish, saying, "Oh, I'm not going to dump it, not going to dump it," and they go and dump it somewhere else when they get away from me. On that line, I did try and contact the environmental team to say, I know this person has dumped this stuff, it's my next door neighbour who's now moved away. I couldn't get in touch with them. I left a message on their telephone. Nobody got back to me. I know the person actually lives up the road, but that's not the case. We should have a number where we can contact the environmental team so we can report this rather than just an online thing that they may come back to us or not. So please, can we have an environmental team that actually comes back to people who reports dumping of rubbish? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfe. If you just switch your phone off, microphone off for the moment. Thank you. I'll ask Councillor Doran to speak.
Hello, Mr. Wolfe. Thank you for coming tonight. My name's Anne Dorian and I'm a councillor for Skirbeck Ward. I'm also the leader of the council. So I asked Barry if I could have the opportunity to respond to your concerns. Firstly, could I start with an apology, please, Mr. Wolfe? I've no idea. I feel like saying, what's the time? I've been playing that with my granddaughter. I apologise. I apologise that the team didn't come back to you. I've no idea why that was, and I will follow that up in the morning. If I get your details before you leave, I will make sure someone rings you tomorrow. Your first question was to ask the penalty for fly tipping, and Cabinet in their December meeting took the decision to increase the penalty for fly tipping to the maximum possible under the new legislation. So the maximum possible is now £1,000. So that is the fine, and that's gone up from £400. I think there's an early repayment charge or an early repayment reduction if the offender pays within a certain amount of time. I'm also happy to tell you that we follow every prosecution through to its conclusion in court. So if someone doesn't pay the fine, they find themselves in front of a magistrate. And to date, I am not aware of any cases that have been lost by this council. And so the magistrate can then issue a fine, and that becomes a criminal conviction on the offender's part. Okay, so it's not a good idea really if you're an upstanding member of the community to end up with such a conviction. We take it very seriously, and thank you for your kind words about that. We do take it really seriously, and where we have evidence, it's very difficult to appreciate, especially those on foot, who we see sometimes people use the Ring doorbells. You see people walking along, but they've all got hoods up. It's dark. It's difficult to identify people. Most of our success is obtained through vehicles, having the number plates captured, or our operatives going through the bags and finding some evidence of bills or envelopes, etc., that we can then trace back to the offender. I'd be happy for our operatives to take a look at whatever evidence you have regarding your next door neighbour who's moved away.
It's a case of the operatives actually, because I didn't know them before, but they actually knocked on my door because they were coming to see me because they thought I had been dumping stuff, because I cut back some stuff, and it was a mistake. But later on, they saw stuff that was put into number 1 Granville Street, which was one of the places that had been locked up because of a drugs den. But that's all done and dusted. I have actually seen people across the road. They had mattress and bookcases and beds outside their house, and then one night it was all down the end of the road. So I actually went to them and knocked on their door saying, and I got them to move it back up. But there was another place across there. It was right in front of my driveway, and then it was down the end of the road. I couldn't do anything about it. I didn't know who it was. Why am I saying this? But I've seen other people blatantly carrying stuff down there because they think it is the Eastern Europeans. They think it is a specific place that they can take things there, so it can be taken away. They think it's a legitimate place. So there should be some signage put up there saying this is not a legitimate place to dump stuff.
I quickly answer that. I know we'll be running short of time. You're absolutely right. I know that Councillor Butler, Callum Butler, has really taken this portfolio very seriously. He's had an education pack produced in different languages to try and help to settle our our European community into our community. You're right, some people have the wrong idea and they do things differently and bring those traditions over here that don't belong here. So he is trying to educate the public. I know Granville Street, Sydney Street has a particular problem with fly tipping, and he's looking at the introduction of mobile CCTV cameras, which hopefully, yes, I thought that might please you. So thank you for bringing it to our attention, but please know that we are very much in support of residents like yourself who are just sick and tired of this blight on our community. But thank you for coming this evening. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. And you had the words from the leader there. You've also got an officer on this meeting tonight who's taking note of everything you said, and somebody will get back to you with the outcome of what you've queried with us. Okay. Thank you. You take care. Right. If we can move on to that concludes the preliminary items. If we can move on to part 2 of the meeting. It's our first item this evening is the proposed BTAC budget and forecast for 2024-25 to 28-29. I'm going to ask Louise to present that for us. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm here to present the BTAC draft budget for 24-25 for consultation. The creation of next year's budget has been extremely challenging. The budget is set within a background of unprecedented inflationary pressures and significant changes in resident, customer and business needs. BTAC is asked to make a recommendation to Council and Cabinet on the precept and Band D levy for properties in the BTAC area for the financial year 24-25. Table 1 on page 13 details various assumptions and scenarios for income based upon increases of 1.24%, 1%, 0.5%, and finally no increase. The impact on council taxpayers of the proposed 1.24% increase would be BTAC's Band D annual charge would go up by 99 pence or 2p per week. The impact for all bands is shown on Table 2 on page 5. 70% of the BTAC households are in bands A and B. This is approximately a 1 pence per week increase. Table 3 on page 16 details the tax base for the current year 23-24 and the expected tax base for the coming years. Both income and expenditure budgets have been forecasted for the coming years. Please refer to Table 4 on page 17. These are summarised according to our SITFA standard classifications, and Appendix 1 gives a more detailed breakdown of these costs by service area. Efficiency savings will be required during each financial year in order to balance the budget. Decisions will be needed throughout each year to establish if these savings can be achieved or whether a drawdown from reserves will be required to cover this. Reserves balances are detailed further on page 18 at Table 5. It is estimated that there will be a carried forward balance of 48,719 at the end of the 23-24 financial year. Tables 6 and 7 give further details on future estimates all the way up to 28-29. Members are asked to consider the report and the increase required for BTAC for 2024-25. I'm now happy to take any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Louise. It's very kind of you. Start with Councillor Gleeson.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions and I would like to talk to the budget, and I have a proposal. I thought our reserves were meant to be around 70,000 was the advice figure.
Yep, so Table 5, just bear with me 1 second while I find it. So yeah, Table 5, your reserve subtotal is 118,719. We suggest that we keep a minimum of 70,000 in there, which obviously then brings you to the carried forward 48,719. So as such, you do have an overall balance of 118,719, but that's just taken into account. It's a recommendation from the Section 151 officer that we do keep a minimum.
So the 48 is on top of the.
Yes, correct.
Okay. There's a figure showing in future years, page 24, of an increase to 22,000 for footway lighting. So that's why the typing's too small for me to read.
Can you just say what page you're on, please?
So bottom of page 24.
Thank you.
Support services. And we're showing an increase for footway lighting. So to this year it's 3,772, but future years we're showing 18,000 something. Don't say.
That is correct. So what we've done, we're going to have an overspend there for the 23-24 year. So obviously what we've done is increase the budget going forward to ensure that we've got enough in the budget to cover that. It's interesting you should mention this. When we talk about possible savings and ways that we can kind of, look at bringing that efficiency down, one of the recommendations perhaps will be looking at an invest to save in terms of like LED lights. I have the numbers here. Currently, there's 125 lights that BTAC are responsible for. Of those, only 42 are LEDs, which obviously the maintenance costs are a lot less. So that leaves you a remainder of 83, which you've got the bulk of the cost there, which is obviously showing in your numbers. And that figure for your footway lighting is your total maintenance costs and obviously electricity itself.
Okay. So is that including some money to move to LEDs for the other ones or not?
That's purely for your costs that you've incurred. Yeah.
So why is the cost so much?
Like I say, it's based on we've moved it. Currently, look what we're looking at for 23-24. We've got an overspend currently.
That's what I mean. So it is. It's electric.
Yeah. We're just moving that budget more in line so that we're not going to incur an overspend basically going forward.
Somewhere within the figures, we're no longer now paying for a CCTV operative.
Yeah. I think they were only temporary for 6 months. I'm not sure, Mr. Perry, if you've got.
Yeah, I believe it was 1 year. It was half year in the first year, half year in the second, and that it was a 1 year agreement that BTAC had to pay towards CCTV.
So, and the committee decided not to carry on with that, did they?
Yes, yes. In terms of
committee.
Yeah, the idea was to support for a period of time, which was appreciated, I understand, for CCTV service, and wasn't required to go from BTAC, and so it has ceased in the budget.
Yeah. So the previous BTAC.
No more has been thought.
Fine, that's okay. I couldn't find anywhere where we decided not to do it. What would be the maximum we could increase the council tax?
Okay, so the maximum that BTAC will be able to increase by is 1.24%. Just to give you the whole overview, if you like, we are governed, obviously, we can only increase the relative basic amount, which basically includes Boston Borough and the BTAC element. We're only allowed to increase that by either 3% or £5, whichever is greater. So your 1.24% would be the maximum BTAC are able to increase by at this time.
Okay, could we have that slower? So why, if we're allowed, if there's a 3% increase, why isn't our share equally 3%?
Because it's a combined value with the Boston Borough percentage that we're allowed to uplift by.
No, I know we're not. No, I realise we're not a parish council, so therefore we are within the limit. But surely, if the overall figure can increase by 3%, and Boston Borough is increasing theirs by 2.9%.
You could, so technically that could happen, but what that would mean is Boston Borough's element would then have to come down because you'd have to keep within that guideline that we're given. And that would then obviously have a knock-on effect to Boston Borough as a total.
Yeah, okay, so sorry, I'm a bear of little brain here. But if the overall envelope can increase by 3% and we're part of that envelope, surely our part can equally increase by 3%.
No, because it's a combined value. What I can do, we have a table in our main council document that explains this. It perhaps might be worth me kind of bringing that into this to show it as a combined value.
Yeah, okay. I mean, just as I say, I can't get my little head around why we don't. If the overall, if the borough and us last year was X, and we can increase X by 3%, why isn't both parts 3%? How come the borough bit is becomes more than 3%?
Yeah, it's the combined value of the both. Yeah, there is a table that's contained within the main council document that explains it, which I can probably pull forward into this report, because I think it would be useful to see where your 3% comes from. Yeah,
well, I mean, because it is totally baffling me, and so it might help.
Yeah, I can find that for you and I'll pull it into this report so that you can see it, and it probably explains it a bit more clearly.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Is that it, Councillor Gleeson? Have we finished? Have we got any more questions? Well, I grasp it, so I'm okay with that, and I'm quite, slow at picking things up, but I grasp it.
Really
so perhaps you could have a word with Councillor Gleeson at the end of the meeting.
Of course,
go through it in a bit more detail. I'm sorry to know that you haven't sort of grasped it, but anyway, Louise will sort that out with you later. Can I take any more questions? Councillor Woodliff, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. It's about the lights, the footway lights. Apparently there's about 84 which are not LED. We could of course, I suppose, transfer. Is it? I understand, is it £300 per light to transfer over to LED?
I don't know the exact cost involved, but what we could probably do is look at what the cost would be versus what the savings would be in terms of the maintenance and obviously the electricity charges.
It'd be about 24,000, wouldn't it, if we switch those?
If that is, we probably need to get the costs done accurately to confirm that.
So I understand that's from Rang, I understand that's £300. I understand that. So if we can, obviously there'd be a considerable reduction in the cost of running, wouldn't it? LEDs are very cheap to run. Probably about, 1 or 2, I don't know what the wattage would be. Pardon me, about 10, 15 watts, I suppose, for a street light.
I think it is definitely something to consider.
So it could reduce our cost by a significant amount, Chairman, couldn't we?
It seems logical to me and sensible that we obviously convert from existing to LED. I don't know if nothing in the budget at the moment with the sounds of it, is there? Or is there a provision in the budget for change?
There's not currently. I think it would have to be a piece of work that we do kind of look at, obviously cost benefit for that, but I do think it would be a worthwhile exercise.
I think we should undertake that as an urgency, because I think we're spending money here and wasting money on lighting that clearly we could save if we converted them all into LED. So can we leave that one with you?
Thank you, Chairman, for taking this matter up. Thank you, Chairman.
That's all right, Councillor Woodley. Thank you very much. Any more questions on the budget? Councillor Dorian.
If I could help the committee, Mr. Chairman, I think it's about 330 to convert to LED, and we had 83 lights. That would cost this committee £27,390. So we could either vote to take that out of reserves if the committee was so minded. We could vote to replace a quarter or half or a third this year and then the year after, or I would be happy, Mr. Chairman, to extend the same offer that's been extended to our parish councils, which is you can have a loan of the money, the full amount at 4.5% over 15 years. But that's just to help council with the costing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll get my Barclay card out then. Is that something we should consider for the next meeting? I think. I mean, if we could have some information on the costings, because clearly the short term is an investment, the long term is the saving, which we want to make sure that how it pans out. So if we could have something for the next meeting of BTAC, everybody happy with that? If Louise brings us some details there, because clearly the LEDs is the way forward, and that's the way of, as I say, making some savings. Long term, the short term is the investment. It depends how much you want to invest and over what period of time. Thank you very much, Councillor Doran, for that. Any more questions? Councillor Gilbert.
My question was about 3 questions really, which relate to basically paragraph 4.2, which is the decrease in the tax base to 0.56% 2023-24. There's some explanations given there, changes in discounts, which I presume is because there may be more people getting single parent discounts, rebandings where a property's gone down in banding to a lower band, and I'm not sure what premiums are. What can you tell me what premiums are as part of my sort of suite of questions?
What I can do, I can contact our colleagues in Revs and Benefits to get probably a full breakdown in terms of what has caused the base to move, basically, and it will give you a bit more detail within that.
That would be very helpful. It then goes on to say, having had this sort of reduction, this decrease, that there's an anticipated increase of 1% per annum for the following year. So I just wonder what the basis for that optimism is. I mean, if there is any basis for that optimism, or if you just got some explanation for that. And then finally, clearly a lot relies on efficiencies, given the amount of money that we're going to be voting to hopefully pass today in terms of the increase in council tax for BTAC. But I roughly calculated, and I'm not great at numbers, that we've got about 3 years worth of subsidising if we don't actually make the efficiency savings in this financial and the subsequent 2 financial years. So can you explain can somebody explain what the efficiency savings are likely to look like and where they're coming from?
Yeah. So to take that point, we're going to be looking at things like the invest to save. So in terms of footway lighting that we've discussed, we've also discussed things such as kind of reviewing the services to see if there's any savings that we can find there. I think in terms of maybe promotional activities where we could be looking to sort of raise additional funds and that kind of thing. And then obviously there are always kind of funding streams that are coming on, throughout the year. So I would be encouraging sort of officers, to be looking at that and applying for any kind of bids, basically, where we can to help us really fund that bottom line. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to have some clarification. Last Monday, we had the Audit and Governance meeting, and BTAC reserves was at £239,000. Now our reserves here actually is 118. So I'm just a bit confused which one is the right one.
Okay, so if you note on table 5, we bring forward the balance of 328. So that's what it was during the start of the year. We are predicting that we will get 59,000 in during the year. So I think that's from 3 various different streams of funding that we've had. And from your reserves, we're expecting to take out 268. And that is broken down by 142,000, which was spent on your play equipment during the year. There was a 70,000 contribution towards the change in places capital facilities. We are expecting 22,000 of that to go out in grants. And there is also a 34,000 currently an overspend that we're looking at for BTAC for this financial year. So those are the elements that make up your 268 and your movement within the year as it stands currently. Obviously, that's subject to change.
It may vary.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. May I come back? I have another question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on page 17, table 4, I mean, I will go straight to the employees, because everything went up except the employees is going to be down by 3.11, which is from 272,230 to 263. Is there any reason for that?
Yes, there is. Good spot. You would expect that to go up substantially more. Yeah. So what we've actually been able to do, again, this was part of reviewing the budgets. We've been able to reduce some employee costs. Obviously, within this financial year, you've had a lot of work done on the play equipment and getting that all in, set up and running. The costs will decrease next year, so that's part of the reason. And then obviously the CCTV operative as well, that we've just discussed as well. So that's why that doesn't look as high as you would probably expect the employee costs to look year on year.
Thank you. I was worried if we probably reduce the amount of the sweepers in the street, because we have to, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, we still have 2 operatives cleaning the street.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought we would use that. Thank you very much for
Okay.
clarification. Thank you, Louise.
Can I ask you a question, Louise? If you go to page 17, 5.2, it talks about these third-party payments increases, and obviously it's quite a big jump from one year to the next. Can you sort of just give us a breakdown of what those increases are?
Yeah, so your third party payments basically relate to your grounds maintenance costs. So the bulk of that is going to be your staffing costs year on year, depending on where your employees fit within the bands. We've obviously had some quite significant cost increase year on year. So they've had 1,925 per scale point added to those for each year. So that's why they've moved quite significantly.
Is that to do with page 21 where it talks about the sensitivities? Is that to do in relation to that numbers there, or is this a separate issue?
That's a separate issue.
Right, okay, thank you. Councillor Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just with your probably acceptance, I would like to probably see an itemized bill for our equipment, because we don't know what we have, and they are part of our assets, and we can see which one they are, still working, or the one we are probably they are not probably operating. If that could be happen for the next meeting, I would really appreciate that.
Are you able to do that for the next meeting?
Yep. So an itemized list of
Our inventory, basically.
inventory.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Thank you.
Any other
Thank you.
questions at all, or we move on?
We move on.
Right, so the recommendation is then that the BTAC recommends to the Cabinet and the Council the level of special expense preset for 23-24 at 768,772 for the council tax charge of £80.37 at Band D. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We'll move on. Our second item of the business this evening is the BTAC Assets Report, which is on page 25 of the agenda, and this will be presented by the portfolio holder, Councillor Dale Broughton, supported by Operations Manager, Mr. Matt Fisher. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. This report provides the committee with information on the wish list of improvements to open spaces identified during your tour of BTAC assets held on the 27th of July 2023. The report also provides a list of open spaces which a committee are responsible for. Members will remember the tour of open spaces in July last year, and a number of improvements to open spaces were identified. These are set out in the table in section 2, pages 26 and 27 of your pack. In the table, we have listed each of the improvement ideas discussed on the tour, and officers have estimated the cost for each project. As you can see, some of the projects involve a significant financial investment. For example, a new play area in Gillard Avenue could cost between £90,000 and £120,000. Some of the improvements are more affordable, such as new signage, football goals, and QR codes for reporting problems. The committee is asked to note the costs provided in the report are estimates only. This will help guide the committee to prioritise which of the improvements they would like to do, based on its budget availability. Any projects which the committee decide on will be fully costed. Any available external funding will be sought to maximise the investment, and the projects will be delivered subject to funding. The second part of the report lists all of the open spaces which are the responsibility of this committee. Appendix A on page 33 to 36 and ward maps identifying these spaces on page 37 to 44. The recommendation in the report are that the committee, 1, is asked to decide which of the improvements listed are progressed for costing and service delivery, and 2, to note the open spaces for which a committee are responsible for. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Broughton. Do you wish to speak, Matt, at all on the subject? You're okay? Right. Shall we take any questions then from the committee? Councillor Gleeson.
During the summer, when we went around the open spaces, overall, it was really very impressive. I think we've got some great facilities. The 2 open spaces in my ward seem to have benefited quite a lot from expenditure on them over the years. But what I think was very obvious was that we have badly neglected Ingelow Avenue. It just hasn't had the money. It did have the opportunity towards the end of the 2018, and we had some water money, but in fact, no one sort of fought for any money in that area, and so it never got it. Actually, the money seemed to go in my area. Anyway, I do think we need to do that. I accept we might well have to stage that over the life of this council in doing it, but I do think above all of the areas, it's got to be a priority. You know, Fenside is the poorest area within our council, and it is one of the poorest areas within the country, if you look at listed. And so, whilst I accept there are a couple of LHP open spaces there, they're not particularly impressive. They don't really help improve the life of the people living there, and particularly the health of the people living there. So I would happily support us prioritising above the other areas in Ingelow Avenue. That's my thoughts.
Thank you much. Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've even highlighted tonight I'm organised. So, as you said, Mr. Gleeson, thank you, Councillor Gleeson, thank you very much. Fenside is one of the most deprived areas in the country. It's on the list for one of the most deprived in the country. As you know, there's the football team on there. There's no football facilities within that area that are free for children. They have got goals. They're in my back garden. They go on the field. You know, we've got nothing for the children. And also in the holidays, what scares me as well about going onto the play area bit is little children play on the street because there is nowhere for them to, they play on the street on the bikes. If there was a play area there, they would use it. But I really do think that Fenside has been forgotten, and I think that we deserve a lot more. That space is beautiful and it's well kept. The children look after it. They've got their own plastic bin and they put all their rubbish in it. We've got a group of football players that come through the summer, 30 at the minute, because 19 of them have actually gone on to league teams, all through volunteers from Fenside that train them with these plastic goals. So I would really, really appreciate if we could have the funding, please. Thank you.
That's well presented there by Councillor Marston. Thank you very much. Councillor Woodliff.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I would support, by the way, what my colleague Councillor Gleeson said, and Councillor Marston as well. The only thing I can point out about West Ward, which is on page 43, there's only one green space pointed out on page 43, and that is that strip of grass which is next to the lay-by on Sleaford Road. It's detailed as being, I think in the report, play area and, let's see if I can find out where it was, play area and amenity space, is it? No, play area and open space. I don't think that really constitutes being a play area. You know what I mean, don't you, Chairman? I wouldn't want any children playing in that area at all. It's probably ideal for perhaps if you've got a dog to walk down it, but it's not a play area and it's not really a resource. It's more of a verge, actually, isn't it? That's the only green area, actually, in my ward. There is actually, though, a secret orchard in that ward, but I'm not going to tell you where it is because it's a secret. But there's nothing else to say. I mean, this is quite a large ward, and obviously it's predominantly middle class and it's comparatively wealthy, I would say. But there is a need for play areas in here for children. The developers of Ashton Hall Drive have put a small play area in one spot, which has a swing, a little roundabout, and a seat. I think that's their contribution under 106, whatever it is. And the same thing has occurred up on Eaton Way at the top, a very small play area. There are a lot of children in this area, a lot of houses. We need to do something more for them than that. You know, I think we need to get on to the developer for this area to whatever, to increase the amount of play area. And as we know, this area on the left-hand side, on the left-hand side of Eaton Way, that's going to be a very large housing estate. That's planned there for, I think it's 1,200 houses. So again, there's going to be a great need. I've raised this before. There's a great need for play area, just because, it's a fairly privileged area, but it is a privileged area. There's still a need for play areas. So I think that going forward, we need to make sure that this area does receive its the best. There are some green areas, of course, but of course we lease them out. So the cricket club and to the football clubs, so they're not really play areas. But there is that secret orchard, but I'm not going to tell you where it is. Thank you, Chairman. No,
That's another Councillor Woodliff gem that we've just heard about. And we're all intrigued to find out where this secret orchard is. And I'm sure we'll have a little visit one day. Thank you very much, Councillor Woodliff. Councillor Gilbert.
First of all, is that any of this costed? Just out of curiosity, have we actually got any money set aside for any of these improvements that are on this wish list or not?
So as it stands, your big ticket items, no. We have had a brief conversation this evening. It will be your sort of smaller ticket items that we could look to contain within your existing budgets for next year, but we would need to sit down and obviously, really look at that and scrutinise it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. My next comment really, and Councillor Woodliff has referred to children, and children are an investment, in our community. They're the people that hopefully will still be here in 20 and 30 years' time, making a contribution one way and another to the life of our town. And it just strikes me as being slightly staggering that we've had a lot of levelling up funding given to us over the last few years, and none of this levelling up money has been directed towards any of these kind of schemes, particularly the larger ticket items that you've referred to there. So I'm just wondering, is there any possibility, given that a lot of this money, I guess, has been committed, to find some cash from somewhere from levelling up to bring to fruition some of these bigger ticket items that we've got identified here, but we haven't got the money for?
I think it's something we need to investigate in terms of, is there any grant funding out there? Are there any alternative streams of funding that we can access to get some of this? I think it's, really important that we start sort of looking at that.
One further observation, when funding is coming our way from the government, I think we need to be thinking about our communities and thinking about our children, and maybe not necessarily being as enthusiastic about giving money to the fairly established organisations within the town that seem to be very good at getting that funding, and spending it on them and their facilities. I'm not naming any names, but I think we know some of the organisations that I'm referring to.
A good point there, Councillor Gilbert. Thank you. Move on to Councillor Danny.
Thank you. I think I'm just going to come back to Fenside. And I tell you, 2018, I had a meeting with some officers at Angelo Avenue, and we agreed to put some equipment there for the people who live, because it's a nice place. And we talked as well about the back way, which is a lot of mothers, they make it shortcut to the school. So I said we can put some light, and they agree, yes, we're going to do that. However, because the council want to offload that plot of land, and they had probably plans for that, so they never implement and put anything there. So I pushed that 2019, same thing. Yes, we have some equipment which is we can use there, but however, they never use it. But then I found out that somebody offered them, I think they were going to offload it for £1 to someone to develop houses there and make some park and thing, which is always disappointing. So it's just like following something which will never happen. So I've been fighting for that. And I think Councillor Gleeson was, I think, with us when we talked about Fenside, and Councillor Gleeson has echoed the same thing. He said, yes, it's one of the deprived place and they don't do anything for it. So the reason, like I say, just they want to sell it. I have faith in these new elected members that things probably will be pushed much faster and better, because I think instead of just forgetting the area, we need the area to be utilized by the youth and make it better for everyone. Thank you.
I share the same faith with you as well about this administration. Thank you very much. I go on to Councillor Dorian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the funding, it's very often frustrating when we get invited to submit bids for funding, because government have very clear ideas about what they think it should be spent on, and there's usually very clearly defined criteria that we have to fit within. And at the moment, the funding streams seem to be focused very much in the town centre, around rejuvenating, reinvigorating, repurposing our marketplace and town centre, things to do with empty shops, housing above empty shops, community safety and social behaviour and so on. So we are restricted a great deal, Mr Chairman, in how we spend that funding. Having said that, I've been incredibly impressed with the work that Councillor Marsden's done in the very short time that she's been an elected member. I know that you glossed over the fact that the goalposts reside in your back garden, but quite simply, without the generosity of you and your husband looking after the goalposts and taking them in every night after they've been used, those children wouldn't have that facility available to them. So thank you for doing that. And you did, I know for a fact you did that long before you became a councillor. So thank you for doing that. And continuing on, I also know you started the football club and opened it for children with special needs, children who weren't welcome at league clubs, who weren't competitive enough or skillful enough to join league clubs. So well done for that too. I share Councillor Gleeson's view that we should really focus insular playing field as a priority. And I think that we really need to examine every corner of our brains to see where we can find that funding. I would be keen to explore a couple of avenues, whether or not the council with its contingency fund could find some element of the funding needed, whether BTAC, whether this could be a joint enterprise between the council, between BTAC. I think we should be knocking on LHP's door and seeing if they're prepared to dip their hand in the pocket. And then, as Louise said, look at some grant funding that may be available through charities. And if you don't ask, you don't get. So I'd be quite happy to work with you, Mr Chairman, and your Vice Chair, Councillor Marsden, to see if we could bring this this dream and make it a reality, especially for the children of Fenside. They deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Doran. Just talking about funding, we've been given some information about, is it the wind farm organisation setting up a community fund? And I think we need to explore that. Can you just go a little bit further?
Yes, Chair, yeah, and Maddie is going to be looking at it. Maddie, who looks after the minor grants, is going to look into that funding stream following the information we got from Councillor Baxter. And so she's picking up with Nicole on this to get us a briefing on that. The company called Dow. It's Dow. It's a wind farm, offshore wind farm that and there was a meeting, I believe, in Butterwick, I think, wasn't it, last week? So yeah, so we're going to have a look, see if there's an opportunity to draw in some funding through that stream as well. And we'll also be talking to Links FA, I think, as well, to see what the opportunities are there as well. So we'll pick that up with you afterwards.
Thank you.
Go on to Councillor Gleeson.
At the tail end of last year, there was a partnership-wide briefing on the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. During that meeting, basically this is a fund designed to supply money to parish councils and the like. And part of the meeting was that Boston hasn't had by any means its fair share. It turned out the reason for this is that they had deemed BTAC, because it was a committee of council, not to be a parish council and not eligible to apply. I challenged that and just asking where they got that from, really, as an idea. And it turns out that they were wrong, and we actually are eligible to claim. So that's grants are up to 25,000. And as I say, Boston is sitting low, partly because, of course, they said, well, the town can't claim because BTAC is a committee of council, so it's sort of self-defeating. So they have now accepted that that BTAC can, in the same way as a parish council can, apply to them for funding. Councillor Gosh knows as well. He was in the meeting as well, sort of thing. They took a while to come back, but they have. So that would be a stream, I think, particularly with Fenside's profile and so on. I really don't see how they could say, no to something like that.
I think we see BTAC as one big parish council, don't we, really, made up of 6 or 7 different wards, and really we should be treated the same as other parish councils in that respect. And I take your point, and I note that.
Yeah, they have now accepted that they were wrong to say we weren't able to apply to it.
Thank you, Councillor Gleeson. Just going back to the wind farm people, I think we should pursue that, because I think they're keen to put up a community fund. I think we should go in there as soon as we can, show what we want to do. And I think recreational facilities in this borough, we've got some good ones, but we need to improve on them, and we need to put more out there. And as Councillor Woodley said, you've got developments coming along where we need to make sure. We also need to follow up LHP as well, because I think they should do some more community work with us as well. And it's a case of putting our heads together around this table and coming up with more organisations and people that we can contact that can support the recreational development of this borough. Now we move on to Councillor Saviak, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. My concern actually would be summer is coming, and probably mothers, grandmothers will be going from one ward to another ward to be playing with their kids, yeah? And there is no toilets. Is it possible to put any toilets? Is there any funding in the place, or is there any thoughts on that? And if not, is it possible to create like jobs to put a coffee van who could look after the toilets or something like that?
It's a great idea, and I appreciate what you're saying. The logistics of mobile toilets and permanent toilets and the cost of them is an issue. Whether we can talk to local companies and organisations, retailers or shops nearby or whatever, if we can come to some arrangement of using their facilities. Because I can remember at one point in my time here before, we had a tie-up with quite a few retailers who were allowing people to use their facilities for the toilets, because all the toilets were either broken or weren't working at the time. So I think that's something we should look at. And I think you're quite right, because you've got little children, they want to go to the toilet, where do they go? Or we don't want to see children, doing a little thing in the middle of the street or on a recreational ground. So I think that's a good point, and I think it's a point we need to look at and come up with some answers. I don't think it's a point we can get an answer today, but I think that's something we should be looking forward to finding a solution. And I thank you for your point there. I move on to Councillor Gilbert.
I'll round up my contribution on this item with these final comments. And they relate to all the items on our list, which are called amenity area, other amenity area. I mean,
what page are we on, Councillor Gilbert?
Well, page 35 and 36.
Thank you.
You'll see a reference to other amenity areas throughout that list. And some of these amenity areas are very small and aren't much of an amenity, to be honest. I mean, I live in Station Ward, and 2 or 3 of them, 4 or 5 of them actually, are on this list. So I just wonder whether there's a sort of slightly more creative way we can think about these amenity areas, because they do have the effect of bringing the town down. I'm thinking in particular about the corner of West Street and James Street, which is just a tatty little area where someone's taken to leaving their wheelie bins and their biffa bins, and it isn't an attractive area at all. So I haven't got any suggestions. I mean, other than maybe we link in with people like Boston in Bloom or the Green Volunteers or the Wombles, or maybe where they haven't got any groups like that, we try and encourage the creation of some groups to take responsibility for those areas and maybe plant them and maybe maintain them, because it will significantly enhance the appearance of the town centre, and it will correctly, enable us to use the term amenity, I think, rather than small piece of waste ground.
I take your point. Thank you very much. Councillor Dunning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just come back to LHP because I had a communication with them regarding the park by the rowing club on Carlton Road. And that was before we had the new development, which is on Puritan Way. And their answer was that they're going to put some new equipment. However, there is a park coming on Puritan Way, And if you have seen Puritan Way, there is a small park, small playground for kids, but it's not much in it. So LHP didn't do anything, and it was fine, you know, regarding their finance, and they have to study it, and so they never come back with any answer, and they left it as it is. So I think that's a good, again, to push. As I say, I have faith in this leadership, and I think we can push for these things because we want things to be done to Boston, and that's what we need. Thank you.
Right, I'm going to move on to page 26 and talk about this wish list, because we need to sort of have a few minutes in trying to identify in what order or priority we want this wish list to be considered. Bearing in mind, we've heard from Louise that the big ticket items are not going to be top of the agenda. But if we can start the ball rolling, if anybody'd like to give me sort of thoughts on what we think we should be doing first, it'd be nice to just get some sort of priority on this wish list. 1, 2, right down to the end. How many is on there? 10 items or whatever. And then the small items obviously sound like there could be some work and it can be achieved on those sort of in the short term. The big ticket items are something we have to consider for the longer term. So does anyone want to start the ball rolling on where they think we should start on the wish list? Somebody speak. Oh, Councillor Cresswell, welcome to the meeting.
I think probably we need to talk about like what are some of the like sort of low price, probably quick wins. I think lots of them, it says about the BTAC signage. And I just think that's like raising the profile of BTAC in the community, seeing what we're doing and where we are doing these wonderful things in these green spaces. So I think like that's quite a quick win. I also think the things like the dog fouling signs and the additional dog bins. I know that's a problem on lots of the parks. So again, I think that these are sort of low price, quick wins that we can probably get put in place quite quickly. Then obviously we need to talk about the other things, but I think those which are across the green spaces would be really pertinent.
Tend to agree with you there. Councillor Gleeson.
Yeah, I noticed that one of the last item on this is surface around all play areas due to potential hazards. So I do think that should be, by the nature of what it is, a priority. Because obviously we don't want, you know, to acknowledge something's hazardous and then not do something about it. But talking, whilst I do accept obviously what you're saying about the big ticket items, they by the nature of them, that they have to be a longer project. We can't do without the money, you know. But I do still think they should be a priority, insofar as, you know, we really should be trying now to find the money so that we can do it, not, you know, do the other things and then start to find the money. So I think the finding of the money above all of the bits should be the priority, particularly in regard, as we've all said, about Injil Avenue.
I agree with you there. I think it has to work in tandem. We've got some quick wins which we can, you know, obviously put into place quite quickly, and in tandem with that, we can actually start looking at how we can fund some of these other bigger ticket items. I don't think we should just stop the ticket items and wait till everything else is done. I think that can be worked on now, and I agree with you. And I think it's a case of working in tandem on that one. Councillor Gilbert.
I'm sorry.
Make one small observation or some small comment in respect to the issue of toilets. If we are going to put QR codes anywhere, and I don't know whether we've discussed that because I was out of the room, would it be useful to include in that the location of the nearest toilet?
Yes, go on.
I'm sorry, just straight away, not forgetting the fact that we have so many elderly people and they don't know how to use smartphones. So I think that would be. Yeah.
I think the location of the toilets is a good idea, and I think that's something we should be looking at. And if we can put them on the maps where the recreational facilities are, near the nearest point. That would be a starting point anyway. Councillor Gleeson.
The one thing, I suppose, there are a couple of little ticket items on Ingelo, and so whilst, you know, I think maybe as a sign of faith, yeah, to the development, that we've got the £1,200 to mark out the football pitches. You know, it seems that it is very popular for football, and so to have a proper marked out pit, you know, would be just saying, look, we are we're working on it. We need to find money for some of the big things, but we're doing something. And also the storage facility, I think, would also be an advantage. So so maybe some of the the little ticket items there, just to start the turnaround.
Entirely agree with you. Entirely agree with you. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one of the things which is I try all the time to talk about is signs. If you are coming to Boston, can you tell me, is there any sign to direct you to the marketplace? No, we haven't got anything. So yes, I think if you drive from coming Swains Head Road or coming from Sleaford Road or from A16 or coming from Wainfleet Road coming to Boston, or there's no signs to tell you what's in Boston to start with. So if I'm a tourist or a visitor, and I meet a lot of people, they are confused. They cannot even get to the White Hart because they're confused how to get to the White Hart. So this confusion for people sometimes just drive you off, or you spend more time wasting driving around the town instead of going to your point. I think signs, we should invest in them big time from each side of the town, because we have 3 entrances to the town main one, Sleaford Road, A16, and then we have Wainfleet. I think we should have proper signs, and signs also, which is, we talk about the parkings. We should have a nice clear signs to tell you how far you're from the town and how easy to get to the town center and our monument. We do have some on Fish Hill, which is the small one, the blue one, but believe you me, a lot of people, they go there and they keep reading, they can't see, and they just walk away because everything is minimal, is small. We need a proper signs where we can show our historic places, how to get from, for example, if you are in Boston Center Marketplace, how far will it take you to go, for example, to the Guildhall? Is it 2-minute walk? So these signs, I think they are very vital for our economy, and it will be very vital for people who comes here. They will find it easy to go around Boston. Okay. And the second thing, which is I would like to touch on, is I will agree with our fellow councillors that we should start with small, things and keep improving from there. And I think it will be easy way for us. And we always have a surplus or some money left. We can invest this money for the next year and make things and improve the things. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? Who deals with signage in the council? Who's it come under? Does it come under you, Matt?
Mr. Chairman, it doesn't. It comes under property services. There's some signage that we have ability and delegation to do, such as the brown information signs. Clearly, there are some signs that are county and directional that are highway authority. But we do have some mechanisms to look at signage in the district, and that sits within property. So it's something we can take away and look at.
So do we not have the signs that Councillor Dunny talks about, directing people in from visitors and tourists into the area? Can we look at that and sort of come back and report back to the committee on that one for us? Are you happy with that, to do that? Thank you. Make a note of that. Thank you. Orion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I just start on signs, some of the directional signs into the town should be Lincolnshire County Council highways. It's a county council matter, not a borough council matter. It shouldn't be brought up in this committee. And the brown signs that we do have jurisdiction over. I know there are signs in the marketplace, Mr. Chairman, that direct you towards the Guildhall and the Stump, and even the Sam Newsom Music Centre, I think. But I will mention it also to Sarah Sharp, because she's looking at tourism in the town centre, so it's her portfolio. I also wanted to mention signs, Mr. Chair, in looking at page 26, and the signage around the comments here. Installing new BTAC signage comes up more than once at £250 a piece, and I just wanted to urge a word of caution. I feel our committee BTAC is perhaps a little bit like the IDBs. A lot of local residents have no idea what the IDBs do, and neither do they know what BTAC does. So I'm not entirely convinced that putting BTAC signs up to say that we've done the work would be beneficial if done in isolation. I think we need a strong comms strategy if you were going to do that, so that we can inform people what part of the council tax pays for, and to explain what we do as a committee and to encourage more people like Mr. Wolf to come along and engage with us and speak to us about our responsibilities. So I would urge caution. If you're going to do it with a common strategy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I hear what you're saying. I noted that. Thank you very much. Councillor Marsland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick one. With Ingelo playing field, I would be more than happy, and I know the residents would as well, if, as said by Councillor Gleeson, the football pitch facilities were priority due to the football group having somewhere to actually call their own. It's not just children from Fenside that go to the group, it's children from all over Boston, on the outskirts of Boston. And as it stands, it's sort of like the little trespassers on the field instead of it being marked as their own place. Do you know what I mean? So I know during the winter they've got to pay to use Peter Payne. So for them to have the facilities there as priority would be fantastic. Thank you.
Councillor Zod.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is estimated costs and a lovely wish list, and I'd like to do it all, but I fully understand the funding. Certainly, I'm a strong believer that we should try to aim at doing anything that costs less than 3,000 in this first year. The question I've got is, these are estimated costs. How long will it be to actually get the real costs, and when could work start? Because we are now in February. Is there any chance of some of the work being completed by the summer holidays?
Thank you for the question. Anyone to respond?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, really quickly. So these are just estimated costs at this stage, just to give a broad context in terms of what are the priorities of the committee. We will then go away and get quotations, and subject to the budget envelope and the funding availability, we can get onto that quite quickly to deliver the project. Some of the signage is really quite quick, a quick turnaround. Goalposts is really quite a quick turnaround. Obviously, delivering a play area is more long term. So, but quickly is what I'll come back and say.
I'll take one more question from Councillor Gleeson, and I'm going to wrap this up and just with a conclusion. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Coming back and toward what Councillor Dorian said about the signage, about a decade ago, it must be now, we went through an exercise of trying to brand BTAC. We had a competition for a logo and things like that, and it never really worked. And so I do think, yeah, we need to have some sort of what we're actually trying to achieve with signage, than just, go ahead with it, willy-nilly sort of thing. I think we need to have a little bit of a thought first where we're going.
I tend to agree with you entirely. And signage to me is either directional or informational, simple as that. And if you ask 100 people in the street what BTAC stands for, I should think 99 of them wouldn't know what the answer is. So I tend to agree with the fact that spending money on BTAC signs until we know is really how the common strategy is going to be looking like for a BTAC branding is something we should leave to one side. What I'd like to say to the committee, if you don't mind, I'm going to suggest that what we do here is that Karen's made some notes of what we've talked about. Clearly, there's a whole list of things at wish list here. The small items, we can get that on a list of priorities straight away. As Matt said, it's a case of costing it up. So I'm going to suggest we get all this lot costed up properly. We put some stuff on Inglo Avenue as well in there to get that moving quickly, because that's the starting point that we talked about earlier. And then the big ticket items there, that basically it's the 90 grand one. We can look at that and see where we can find some funding for that anyway, and whether we can tap into some community projects. But we'll put all this, cost it all up, bring it back to the next meeting, and then we can decide really in what order we want to execute the wish list. Is everybody happy with that? All in favour? Thank you very much. I'll take that noted then. Right, so the wish living improvement should be progressed to full costing and service delivery. So we've just agreed that. And note the open space listed on the responsibility of the committee. Is that okay with that? Everybody all right with that? Thank you. We'll move on. The next report this evening was requested at a previous meeting and is a Green Flag Award on page 47 and was presented by the portfolio holder, Councillor Dale Broughton, supported by our Assistant Director for Leisure and Culture, Mr. Phil Perry. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Last year, BTAC requested a report on the merits of attaining a Green Flag Award for the committee to consider putting it into its work programme. Following that request, Cabinet at its 25th of October meeting also approved a Boston Town Centre strategy and action plan entitled The Town Centre for Everyone. The Town Centre strategy aims to regenerate and revitalise Boston and includes 73 actions, 3 of which are associated with the BTAC work programme. The first 2, to install change-in-place toilets and redevelop an area of the Central Park play area, have both subsequently already been completed. And the third was an aspiration to attain a Green Flag standard for Central Park. The Green Flag Award scheme is a process of external accreditation intended to encourage the delivery of well-managed public parks. And this report outlines the requirements needed to achieve this award. BTAC has been very proactive in improving Central Park for the benefit of its residents and has recently undertaken a number of projects in partnership with external organisations and funders. Projects in recent years have included the provision of a skate park, multiple use games area, outdoor gym and sports equipment, a new garden and arts installation, CCTV cameras, a change in place facility and redesigned and refurbished play facilities. Park is also due to have a footway improvements undertaken in March 2024, and it hosts many of BTAC's own annual events programme, as well as also supporting events delivered by organisations outside the council. The purpose and aims of a Green Flag are to ensure that everybody has access to quality green and other open spaces, irrespective of where they live, to ensure that these spaces are appropriately managed and meet the needs of the communities that they serve, to establish standards of good management, to promote and share good practice amongst the green space sector, and to recognise and reward the hard work of managers, staff and volunteers. There are a number of benefits to attaining a Green Flag Award, as well as receiving an actual green flag to promote the status. It is a source of civic achievement, providing communities with a greater sense of civic pride. It demonstrates to the local community that a clear improvement has been made to a site. The award can support tourism, attracting new and repeat visitors to the town. It can also be a lever for obtaining external funding through improvement grants to regenerate the park from organisations such as the Heritage Lottery Fund. And every winner has its own dedicated page on the National Green Flag Award website to promote the park and also the town. To achieve a Green Flag Award, BTAC would need to demonstrate that it has a clear plan of what it aims to achieve, why and who it serves. The judges will also expect to see a clear management strategy that both demonstrates that the park is well maintained, there are plans for the future, showing continual improvement. Judging is undertaken via 2 stages. Step 1 is a desk assessment on the development and implementation of a park management plan, which details where we are now, where we want to go to, how are we going to get there, and how we know we have met our aims and objectives. Step 2 involves a site assessment to measure how well a site is managed against 27 predetermined criteria, which sit within 8 theme headings of a welcoming place, healthy, safe and secure, well maintained and clean, environmental management, biodiversity, landscape and heritage, community involvement, marketing and communication, and management. Appendix A provides more detail on the standards required to be met to acquire Green Flag status, and Appendix B provides a complete Green Flag Awards guidance manual entitled Raising the Standard for your reference. Applications for a Green Flag Award need to be submitted by the 31st of January each year, with award winners announced each July. To apply for an award, an initial site description, contact details, and publicity information would need to be supplied, along with a management plan and purchase order. There is a £350 registration fee, plus any costs associated with developing and implementing a 5-year management and investment plan. To undertake this work, there will be a requirement for members, officers and partners to initially dedicate time to develop a management plan for the park. There will also be a further need to develop an annual action plan, which may require further financial resources, grant funding or sponsorship to deliver. It is therefore recommended that BTAC considers the merits for pursuing a Green Flag Award, and it may wish to set up a working group to develop its application if it decides to pursue this opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much there, Councillor Broughton. It's clearly a major project, this is. I'm going to ask Phil Perry to have a few words as well on this.
Thank you, Chair. As we heard from Councillor Broughton, this is quite a large undertaking for the committee to consider. There are lots of merits of taking this forward in terms of developing the town centre strategy, which is an element that BTAC has already contributed towards. And at the end, we finished about the need to set up a working group. So the committee will really be looking for 3 volunteers to sit and work within the group to work towards developing a management plan should members wish to agree this report. Thank you, Chair.
Right, we'll take some questions now. I'll start off with Councillor Gleeson.
Thank you, Chair. It was actually me that suggested this. And so I suppose I better speak for it. I put up the idea because, you know, having gone round on our tour last autumn, I realised, yeah, we actually do have some really good facilities, but how we've got there has maybe been a little bit random. And with Central Park, which, you know, should be the sort of the crown in the centre of Boston, I did feel that it was where, you know, we needed to look at a slightly more structured view of how we develop the park, how we maintain it. The Green Flag Award gives us that structure, and, you know, should we achieve it, so there will be some kudos to the town. I think we would be the only town, you know, within the Lincolnshire area, you know, with a Green Flag Award, and I just think it gives us a path forward, and it shows, you know, that there is something we can make it better and we can achieve a good town centre. So I think as part of this overall development or improvement of the way people view our town, as a reason for people to start coming back into the town, that if we have that facility and there's a Green Flag Award, so somebody's on holiday, you know, in one of the villages around, and they think, well, there's a really good park within Boston. We'll go into Boston and have a look. You know, so I just think it's worth the effort to do it. I think it will make the park better, the exercise, should in the end we not make it. I think we could, because I think it's a really good facility. But I think the whole exercise of us focusing on how we improve and maintain the park and a 5-year vision for it will work well. So I would like to support it, and it behoves me then to volunteer to be on this committee, I suppose. Thank you.
Yeah, you just asked Councillor Broughton to.
Yeah, I'd just like to give a bit more information as well. At present, in the county, there's only 7 green flags in the whole county, and all of those are in Lincoln. So Boston's never had a Green Flag Award, and if it's something we want to achieve, we'll be the only town this side of the county to have anything apart from Lincoln. So anything that we can get for Boston's a good idea, I think.
Councillor Daddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I will support it because I think it's a good tool and I think it's a good way of marketing the town. I think it will be the best. There is a lot of enthusiasts who likes the green, likes to see parks, new flowers, new trees. I think we can be able to achieve that, and I will be very happy to volunteer and work with the subgroup anytime. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Gilbert.
I remember some years ago when the Central Park had rose beds, and it was a very attractive environment in Boston Central Park. And over the years, I guess, Labour power sort of constraints resulted in a lot of those rose beds being, you know, scrubbed up, if you like. And when I got onto the council in 2007 for the first time, I mounted a campaign to have shrubs removed from various locations in Boston, because at that time we had a big influx of people from Eastern Europe, and many of them were using those areas to camp, to defecate and to urinate. And it seemed to me that it was having an adverse effect on the amenity of the town. But I have to say that now, with the Boston in Bloom, we've had other groups coming along and working with us to improve the appearance of the town centre and beyond, including Boston in Bloom. I think we're probably at a turning point where we can start looking again at re-establishing some of the areas that we've had to get rid of in the past because we didn't have the labour power at our disposal to maintain them. So for me, it's all about maintenance. It's about getting us to a particularly good threshold, this threshold, and then maintaining it. And for that, we need lots and lots of labour power, and the labour power that we can't actually afford to employ. But we do seem to have a lot of people who are fairly committed to engaging with us on those kind of projects. I also just wondered about whether or not we could engage North Sea Camp. I mean, they've got a lot of labour power in there that's not doing a great deal. And whether or not it will be possible to encourage them to make a contribution to this project, given the fact that they're only, 3.5 miles outside of the town centre itself. And I'm sure the governor there will be quite interested in having opportunities to have his guests, no, not what they're called now, residents, given some constructive activities.
This is a very, if you look at it very in depth, it's quite a very major project, this is, and it needs a lot of work. So let's be very clear that it's a lot of work to be done here, a lot of effort to go into here, a very prestigious award, and it would be a feather in our cap to get an award like this to put Boston on the map, so to speak. And, you know, I support this as well, and I think it's something that we should be doing. It's part of our progression and development as a borough. And as a council, and I'm all for it. But let's just not forget that there's a lot of work to be done though. That's the thing, and this 5-year plan, and there's all the ongoing workload that follows from there. So yes, I think we're all in favour of that, are we? Are we all in favour?
Because hopefully it's a constructive suggestion, and that will be maybe to look at what the amount of labour power would be required to achieve this, and then trying to sort of not necessarily put a cost on it, but then work out where that labour power is going to come from.
Agreed. Go back to Phil. Yes.
So thank you, Chair. I think we better be clear. This is when we talk about labour, this is not all about the park being developed in a certain way. This is also about the community as well. So this is about going out, finding out what the community need. We have to remember that a lot of our community are younger, and making sure we have facilities for young people as well to enjoy the parks. And we did a lot of good work through the committee with Haven when we looked at skate park, multi-use game and these things as well. So it is about a community approach. It's about working with other organisations that can support and wish to be involved in developing the park. And as I said, there's nothing wrong with looking at things like North Sea Camp, because they have a horticultural, support that may be able to come forward as well. But a lot of the work is about consultation. It's about developing a plan that meets the needs and the future needs of the town. So I think we just need to be really clear that a lot of the management is a lot of work will be going out to put this together. Then we're able to look at what we actually deliver in the park and an action plan, then to develop that aspect and costs associated with that, delivering it.
I actually think it would be a good idea if we went to visit or meet another organisation or another council like Lincoln who've done this green flag, to find out the issues, the problems, what sort of, what did they overcome, what sort of mountains they have to climb, was there any areas that they struggled with. I think that would be quite a useful exercise for us all to do that, to see, to prepare us by going into this, not with our eyes closed, but with an open mind, what other people have done to get there, how they got their award. And I think a bit of research there would probably help us a lot. And that's my suggestion, we do that. Councillor Dorian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'll start with a proverb this evening, and it's an ill wind that blows no good. And I think The ill wind for us was the dreadful autumn fair weather, not the fair, the autumn fair weather that no one predicted. I know that one resident did write to me saying that I should have known that it was going to rain that hard. However, it made us take a long, hard look at what the park was, what the potential was, what it represented to local people, because it invoked a huge amount of response from local people. And it clearly was, to quote Councillor Gleeson, felt as though it was a crown jewel that had been badly damaged. And we were all horrified and desperately upset. But the impetus then was that we looked at how we could make it better, how we could repair what was there, not to bring it back to the same standard, but to improve it. And so I was delighted when I heard about the green flag, when the officers brought it forward from his previous authority. And I know it's going to be a lot of work. Rome wasn't built in a day. Proverb city over here. I think it's a measure of what this administration wants to do, which is ambitious for its borough and passionate about our local people and what they want and what they need from us. So I fully support this endeavour, and I'm happily take a stand back and let others come forward and sit on this committee, because I'm sure you'll do sterling work. I fully support it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Gleeson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just very quickly, because of some of the things, Mr. Perry, some of the things. One of the things I keep harping on about is how we need as an authority, and we are working towards it, to open ourselves up to the community where we can. And I do feel that this can be used as part of a further widening, elsewhere as well. So obviously Central Park's where we go for the green flag, but the idea of having community or local residents who have an interest in the open space in their area, and that can grow out of this as well. Because I think we do need to learn really, how we include people more. Because the feeling sometimes is, I have it, don't get me wrong, I'm an old Marxist, so that it's a top-down approach. And I have to fight against that in myself. What we need is to listen to what people want in their park and make them realise that we will listen and they can have proper influence, because people aren't going to talk to you if they're not going to see some input themselves. And so I do think this is part of a wider opening up of the way we do things, and it'll be a learning curve for us as well, and how we extend that into our other play areas and how we get people involved. People like how Councillor Marston has been, before she was a councillor, the champion of Ingelo. We need some people who are living close and they can become the champions of some of the other areas. And so I just think it's a positive exercise, even if at the end we don't make it, but I do think we can and will. Yeah. Thank you.
I think the administration, the current administration, is really sort of leading the way in communicating with the public and getting involved with the public and getting the public to get involved with the council. And I think, that's one of the things that the leader has made quite clear from her position, and the rest of the administration and the portfolio holders are all looking to do that. And I think we're making strides, headway into getting that sort of relationship building up and the trust coming back. It's a pity about what happened to the park in that weather. The good thing that came out of that was the costs were paid for by the organisation who used it for that purpose of a fair. So that's the good thing. But it was, you say, the crown jewels. People were disappointed what happened there, and I could see all the sort of different messages both on Facebook and in the paper about the sort of disappointment of what happened to that to their crown jewels, as you say. Anyway, can we? I'd like to move forward on this then. So, do the committee want to go ahead with this? Can we just put a vote of yes or all in favour? Is anybody against it at all? No. So we move forward then on that. Thank you very much, and I'll let Phil Perry and Councillor Broughton take the thing forward and go for the application in the way they would normally conduct the business of you know, taking this project forward. I do feel that we ought to go and talk to some people who've got an award and see what they actually went through to get it. All right. Right, we move on then. Thank you very much. When we go into the last one is our work programme on page 1. Is it 141, is it? Yep. Just on the point of the work programme for March, we've got 3 items on there. Does anybody want to raise any other points? We've asked people to come back to the meeting in March with other information, but anybody want to raise any other projects or any items on there? I would like to say that in the May, is it a May meeting?
Yeah, to be dates.
We've asked Neil Kempster, who's the chairman of the Boston Town Deal, to come and do a presentation. He couldn't do the March one, but he's quite keen to come thereafter. So if there's a meeting in the May time, he will be coming, and we will throw open the invitation to all the councillors to come along and listen to his presentation about the developments. And a lot's happened. Both Councillor Doran and myself sit on that board, and there's a lot happening on there at the moment. And I think come May, there'll be a lot more things to talk about. So he will be coming then. Does anybody else want to raise any other issues on there? Councillor Gleeson.
Just something I mentioned earlier, which is this UK Shared Prosperity Fund. I'm just wondering whether we could have some report on that, because obviously this is a pot of money that will be going away. We've looked at Angelo Avenue as a potential for there, but there's nothing to stop us looking at other projects. And so it might be an idea if we could have something in there on the scope of the scheme and what we could be looking at doing and things.
I've made a note of that for you, so that will be on the agenda for the work programme. Any other? Councillor Gilbert.
Flying a kite here, so as usual. So I don't. I'll half expect to be. Yeah, I'll half expect to be told to sort of now we can't do that. Sorry. But I'm just a little, you know, I'm all, because I live in the town centre. I'm very conscious of some of the approaches to the town and how tatty and unwell maintained they are. And within the town centre itself, we've got streets like Fidel Street and Argyle Street, where some of the housing is looking very dilapidated and depleted. And I just wonder whether there's any way we can, because we are responsible for this town centre area, whether there's any way we could have some kind of conversation with somebody, maybe from the borough, maybe from the county council, about how we can actually improve the appearance of the town centre. We've talked about the Green Flag Award, which is great, but it's very specific to one particular sort of project or 2 or 3 projects. I'm more concerned about the whole appearance of the town centre in general. And whether there's maybe some grant funding available for people to improve the appearance of their private dwellings if they haven't got the money to actually make them look attractive themselves. So it's a kind of a broad amenity related kind of proposal, but I don't know whether it can.
If I could just interrupt you there, I mean, as part of the Boston Town Deal, there is a project going on where is it Lincolnshire Heritage Lincolnshire, Councillor Dorian, where they're facelifting a certain amount of buildings to improve the exteriors of the buildings in conjunction with the owners of the buildings and the people there. So they've probably got about 15, 20 different buildings they're going to work on. Can you just enlighten us on?
Yeah, you're correct, Mr. Chairman. It's called Healing the High Street. Yeah, that's the fund. And it's a partnership where I think they offer almost 90% grants to shop owners, and they look for the 10% match funding, and it's to improve the appearance and replace and improve the heritage as well. So where there's been perhaps 1960s windows or doors put in buildings, to bring them back into the traditional windows and doors that would have been when they were built. So that's going on, but certainly if you're going to have a briefing on that in May, that would help. There's also with your indulgence, Mr. Chair, there's a piece of work that we're not at liberty to go public with at the moment, but would, I think, satisfy a lot of your concerns, Councillor Gilbert. So we'd be happy to arrange our members' briefing in confidence to allay some of your fears.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gleeson, again.
I think what Councillor Gilbert was referring to more though is the residential part of the centre. So, you know, obviously if there is any information about what can be done with that, that'd be great.
Thank you. I understand. Any other questions? Okay. Can I thank you all for attending the meeting this evening, and we'll see you again sometime, hopefully. I think is it May time possibly. Oh no, March, sorry, March 20th.